Okay, let's switch gears now, talk about the National Guard. Of course, we've seen the president bring the National Guard into this city, which we're in right now, Washington, D.C., also L.A. Today, he talked about he is planning on going into Chicago. Of course, Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, says he does not want it. Do you feel that it's lawful for the President of the United States to bring the National Guard into states where normally that is something that would be decided by the governor? I
would say my thinking is that going to somewhere where someone does not want you is very difficult. It is very difficult to want to have the federal marshals entirely different. But if you've got the National Guard there, which are there to protect law enforcement officers, I think it's a real push. Now, with this said, I think Washington, D.C. has seen very positive results. They have allowed criminals to be put on notice. The National Guard's not there to do anything except to ensure that what happens is done properly and the police are doing the work. So I think positive things could be seen by people, and I think there could be a light in that tunnel to say, please come. They had some 80 shootings this weekend. It is obvious that Chicago has a problem. And what happens is that in this political battle,
their numbers are down, though. There has been a drop.
We would be the first to say you're right. But if you look at the numbers, this is the quadrant that the president wants to be in also, because the president wants to be able to prove everybody is entitled to a safe neighborhood and the safety by government.
At this point, I just want to ask, even though this hasn't been on the table at all, if the president were to say, we're going to bring the National Guard into cities in Texas, right into your home territory, would you be okay with that?
You know, the answer would be yes. If I saw a need, I would want it. The governor does not see the need. But we have seen the stories and the pictures of too much carnage that is in Chicago. And so why would someone want that broken system still on them? I think that there will be positive things that will be seen that happen in Washington, D.C., to where a public demand would say, yes, we would like this.
I do want to get to the budget. We understand that the Jeffries and Johnson did speak today. If you have a crystal ball, you think we're going to be able to get this over the finish line?
Well, I think that the demand curve is not as great because the president, because Republicans control this. But I think that we are going to get it done. I don't ever see a government shutdown. That would be foolish on our part. But the timing is important to fund the government properly, to make decisions. We're back. Members of Congress can do this. I think the Senate's up to it. And the president should want to get on with the rest of the things that need to be done. And that is called running the government.
Congressman Sessions, so appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. And next up tonight, the president renewing that threat to deploy the National Guard to Chicago, as we just discussed, vowing, quote, we're going in without saying when. The president declared Chicago the worst and most dangerous city in the world by far, putting Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson on notice. His new threat followed a violent Labor Day weekend across the city. At least 8 people were shot and killed, dozens injured in separate incidents. Governor Pritzker responded immediately, saying that he refuses to play a reality game show with Donald Trump. Chicago reports a 22% drop in violent crime compared to 1 year ago. ABC's Mary Bruce reports from the White House.